We have one reading this morning. It's titled Holding the Light, and it's by the poet Stuart Kestenbaum. Gather up whatever is glittering in the gutter, whatever has tumbled in the waves or fallen in flames out of the sky, for it's not only our hearts that are broken, but the heart of the world as well. Stitch it back together. Make a place where the day speaks to the night and the earth speaks to the sky. Whether we created God or God created us, it all comes down to this. In our imperfect world, we are meant to repair and stitch together what beauty there is. Stitch it with compassion and wire. See how everything we have made gathers the light inside itself and overflows? A blessing. Over the last few months, we've been conducting an adult religious education series on Wednesday nights on Zoom. The course is one provided by the Unitarian Universalist Association, and it focuses on ethics. The class is about how we choose what we choose to do and believe in our lives. In that course, we've thought about guiding ethical systems as well as where our ethics come from. Did we learn them as children from our parents? Do they derive from religious experiences we had as children or what we were told about God and heaven and hell? Have we come to them through our living or even what we might call our common sense? I'll speak for myself and say that these conversations have been stimulating, challenging, and thoroughly engaging. This past week, we started by considering the differences between natural rights, which we can understand as those rights that are inherent to us simply by virtue of being alive. We considered legal rights, which are the rights granted and protected by a society or government at any particular moment in history. And then human rights, those agreed upon by a substantial portion of the international population and laid out in the UN Charter and Declaration on Human Rights. One of the exercises was to brainstorm things that we, the group that was gathered, believe to be rights of whichever kind. Now, as you might imagine, in a group of 10 UUs, that list got long quickly. Among the rights stated were the right to a voice and opinion, the right to basic human needs for survival, the right to choose how to live our lives as long as we aren't harming others, the right to education and meaningful and compensated pursuits, and many more. And the writing of that list led us down something of a tangent. We found ourselves engaged in a conversation not uncommon for UUs. Who is actually welcome at a UU congregation? Would a Donald Trump supporter feel welcome? Would someone who holds prejudiced views feel welcome? Would someone who's anti-abortion feel welcome? Would someone with a personal relationship with Jesus feel welcome? Would someone who hates coffee feel welcome? We start our services by talking about the welcome of this congregation. We say that no matter your age, your gender, your sexuality, your education or economic status, no matter your race, no matter your theology, all of us are welcome here. But what does this actually mean and why does it matter? And I will share with you that I've spent a lot of time since that Wednesday night meeting thinking about this question, talking about this question with family, with colleagues, trying to come up with something to say about this question and its follow-up, right? So the question is, would such folks feel welcome? And the follow-up is, are we responsible for making them feel welcome? Let's start with the coffee hater, which I added as a bit of a goof since UUs have such a reputation about coffee, but it helps to give us context. Now, I can't see you if you raise your hand, so I'm gonna ask it and you'll look around and see each other. Are any of you out there people who hate coffee? I know you exist because I'm about to marry someone who hates coffee. But here's the thing, coffee lovers, do the coffee haters stop you from getting your coffee? And coffee haters, do we provide you with tea as an alternative option? Yes. This is a preference that harms no one, is easily accommodated on both sides, and is like a lifestyle choice, right? Based on taste buds, tradition, whatever other consideration goes into it for you. Easily accommodated. That was the simple one. Now, things get a little bit more interesting as we work our way up that list of questions. How about if we consider the individual with a personal relationship to Jesus? Now, I suspect/know that for a long time in UU congregations, there was an assumption that someone with a relationship to Jesus would not want to be at a UU congregation. I suspect USR back in the day held that opinion as well. Folks all across the wider world of UUism did. And of course, then the thinking might become, if someone like that wouldn't want to be here, then why would we need to be welcoming to them? Put more aggressively, there are congregations, more historically, that have held anti-Christian beliefs, not just assuming that those kinds of folks wouldn't want to be here, but actively making UU congregations hostile to such folks by mocking them or erasing any possibility for them to see themselves reflected in the service. More interesting, more complicated. Now, my understanding of our theological big tent, one of the cores of Unitarian Universalism, is that someone with a relationship to Jesus or Allah or Buddha or any other religious figure should be welcome here because their personal theology doesn't harm anyone. We use words like God, though always qualified, and Spirit to leave space for folks to see and hear themselves in the service because we believe in letting people believe what they will about divinity and the cosmos. Even though we aren't all Buddhists, don't all share an understanding of God, we make room for folks to bring their personal theology into our shared space and not feel shamed or cut out of the circle. Okay, so maybe you're agreeing with me up to this point, maybe not. Either one is fine. When I get up there in the pulpit or I sit here on Zoom and I talk to you, I'm sharing my thoughts, what I've turned over in my mind, and we don't have to see fully eye to eye. But we're going to keep going, even though it's going to get harder. Let's try the next one. Someone who is anti-abortion. It gets a little more thorny there. Would someone who is anti-abortion feel welcome at USR? Or more pertinently put, are we responsible for making someone who is anti-abortion feel welcome here? For me, I'd have a couple questions. Is this someone who themselves could never have an abortion but doesn't mind if others do? Is this someone who's uncertain about its morality but is unwilling to impose their beliefs on others and so believes in choice for each individual? Is this someone who believes that their anti-abortion stance should be shared by all and who wants to legislate against abortion for all people in all circumstances? And I want to suggest to you that the answer to that question matters because it becomes about harm and imposition. I believe that it is not inconsistent with UU values to be against abortion for oneself, but that it would be against UU values to attempt to dictate how others feel about their bodies, or to attempt to impose on others certain reproductive choices. Real harm is caused by that kind of imposition. Real lives are impacted, altered forever, even lost. And I don't think it's incumbent on us to welcome into this space an insistence from others on how we should live. Still with me? The next one on our list was, would we welcome someone with prejudiced views? So let's be real. We can't see into the heart of every person who walks into our space, who comes into our community. Studies in racism and prejudice suggest that every single one of us holds prejudiced views to some degree, implicit biases that we learned early on from families or society or religious groups or peers. Many of us here at USR work actively on dismantling those biases, stumbling in our journey and getting back up to try again. Many of us reflect on and care about learning to move through the world with less prejudice, less meanness, less participation in systems of oppression. Many of us are doing the best we can and also are not perfect. And if someone walked into our community, into that space that you are in right now, spewing hatred or committing microaggression after microaggression or threatening the safety of our beloveds, or sharing a belief that some of our glorious, diverse humans don't deserve to live or live their truths, then no, they wouldn't be welcome. Better put, they would be welcome to come and listen and learn and engage in their own growth, but not while engaging in those kinds of behaviors. When we talk to the kids in our family about choices and behaviors they've made or exhibited, we're careful to say, this thing you said, this thing you did, this choice you made, these disappointed us or weren't in line with our family's beliefs about how to behave or speak or choose. It's not you are bad, not you are wrong, because the person is welcome, but the harmful beliefs and harmful behaviors are not. This brings us to maybe our most tricky in this moment, given our society. Would a Trump supporter feel welcome at USR or in a UU congregation? My honest answer is that I don't suppose they would, even acknowledging that Trump supporters are not a monolithic group. By and large, though, they probably wouldn't appreciate my sermons on anti-racism or against capitalism and American exceptionalism. They probably wouldn't like the work of our social justice teams that tries to put what is right above what is comfortable or above personal gain. They probably wouldn't like our insistence on ending the patriarchy and liberating all people. And again, the question becomes, is it incumbent on us to make sure a Trump supporter would feel welcome? And my answer, and I would love at some point to hear yours, my answer is I don't think so. Not here, not in this space. We've committed ourselves to a progressive, circle-widening way of creating religious community, and I don't believe it is our work to make sure that this space and this community is welcoming and safe for folks who want to draw the circle tight and close. I think it is our work to prioritize this being a safe place for folks who've experienced harm at the hands of religion, at the hands of society, at the hands of those with hate and fear and prejudice in their hearts and in their mouths. So I think every belief is not welcome here. Every action is not welcome here. The committing of harm and violence, whether physical, emotional, psychological, or spiritual, the committing of harm and violence against others is not welcome. We don't welcome beliefs or actions that draw the circle tight and cut others out. We don't welcome beliefs or actions that harm our beloveds who already face marginalization and oppression beyond the walls of our space. USR, this place, this community, this thing that we do on Sunday mornings and throughout the week, this thing that we share with hundreds of thousands around the world, I believe that it has to be safe and loving. And that means having boundaries. And those boundaries get drawn when someone intends to do or continuously does harm. And I really believe this. We can hold those boundaries and still be welcoming, because actually boundaries help us love and welcome better and more clearly. Now, what does all of that mean in terms of widening the circle? So we widen it to include the marginalized, those left out for millennia. We try to push our circle to the edges and invite in all who would share in love and interdependence. What is our obligation to those who choose to believe and to live in ways antithetical to love and interdependence? Do we cast them off? Do we keep them out? I don't believe our obligation is to have them here, but I don't believe our shared values allow us to simply let them languish and lean deeper into anger and prejudice outside the circle. I think our obligation is to encourage those of us with privilege, as we feel able and comfortable and safe, to engage in conversation with those who hold deeply different views from us. Conversation and relationship is what will, maybe, hopefully, begin to heal the deep divisions that are so stark among us. But, and I cannot be clear enough about this, we absolutely won't ask people of color, LGBTQ folks, Jewish folks, others to endanger themselves by engaging in conversation with those who don't believe in their right to live. We won't ask people to subject themselves to violence or trauma in the name of compromise. Widening the circle with clear boundaries and a shared sense of what is ours as a community and what is ours as individuals to do will help us to become what Unitarian Universalism has the potential to be. Ultimately, I think UUism is countercultural or counter-religious cultural, because it demands not that we conform to the same theology or the same hot beverage or even the same political expressions and positions, but it demands that what binds us is our absolute love for our fellow humans and their inherent holiness that imbues them with an inherent right to life and safety and compassion and justice. It is somewhat novel in a religious community to demand that what binds us is not our understanding of heaven and hell, or even our ultimate purpose as humans on earth, but rather that what binds us is our absolute belief in our interdependence and the truth that none of us are free until we are all free. To compromise on these, love and interdependence, is to compromise on what binds us. And it's to compromise on what we have to offer this world as a community. Being countercultural in this way means that Unitarian Universalism occupies a unique space in America's religious landscape. It means that this faith, as it has grown and developed over many decades, has become and will remain safe for families who don't look like other families, safe for people who choose to live authentically, even if it means that they are at risk beyond these walls. Safe for those who cannot or are not ready yet to live their truth out loud, but who need to hear the affirmation of their beauty and their wonder and their glory spoken from a pulpit, preached as our shared truth. Being countercultural in this way doesn't mean we shirk from our duty to try to heal the divisions of the world. It means that we try that much harder while also protecting the safety and the welcome of this home that we have built. USR, Unitarian Universalism, I absolutely believe is vital for the healing of our nation. Whether we created God or God created us, it all comes down to this. In our imperfect world, we are meant to repair and stitch together what beauty there is, stitch it with compassion and wire. Those words by poet Stuart Kestenbaum have stuck with me since one of you first shared the poem with me. They are a call to us to see the beauty, to do what we can to bring it back together using all the tools we have. This world is imperfect. We are imperfect. We don't always agree. And compromise, or at least an agreement to disagree, is often necessary to function as a nation and a society. Even here together in our community, we disagree, and that's okay. And yet there is ground we will not and should not cede. The circle of compassion should encompass all. Boundaries are right and necessary. Every being is holy and filled with inherent worth and possibility. Not all beliefs are safe. Love and our shared humanity are the largest truths we can know, and they can change this world for the better. May we work to keep this community safe and welcoming. May we work to repair what is broken in this world as we are able. May we hold fast to the values that animate our faith and our lives. May we widen the circle as best we can. And may we never forget that we are not alone. So may it be. Please rise in body or spirit.